Very good. Let me just grab the mic for me to... Is that okay? I think fine. Should be fine. I will talk about a fresh May attack for use directed at use of secure protocols that was now titled Logjam, and whatever we have in the area throughout this current year, quite a lot we actually had. The first DLS protocol attack of the year was disclosed in March, and was named Freak. That was something factoring whatever export case. And that's related to American legislation requirements from the back of the 1990s, the end of the 1990s, where there were these limits to the cryptography limitation, 512-bit keys. It was considered that that would be enough for commercial limitation, for commercial security. Special services would also feel that's enough. That was implemented and supported by all systems. And in 2015, all of a sudden, it was disclosed that a 512-bit RSA key can quite simply be broken down. Thus, anyone who would want to can organize a downgrade, a cipher skewed down to 512-bit, record and decipher it quite easily. Then, in May, a logical extension was discovered, an attack at cipher suits that is using Diffie-Hellman parameter. Diffie-Hellman keys. If in short, if you're using relatively short parameters, be it 512-bit or 512 bits or 768 bits, which is accessible to academic institution, or 1024 that is accessible to some special services. If it's a Diffie-Hellman scheme that is being used for development of the general key based on the discrete logarithmic, and maybe I would go into more detail later on, then such connections can once again be recorded, and in some cases they can be deciphered. Well, what's the Diffie-Hellman scheme? That's the way it looks graphically, some mathematics here. And that's a way, that's an approach that allows parties to develop the common key without sending any components thereof over the open channel. It was considered that using an algebraic operation, discrete logarithm, you can calculate common key, and that would be relatively secure. And even if later on secret server key would be leaked, the communications that will be protected following Diffie-Hellman's scheme would stay undeciphered. All of a sudden, it turned out that it's not exactly true. Now, into some more details. In the process of establishing secure connection over the handshake, there is a procedure based on DNS, but similar. The server is sending signed data to open random values, and quite a simple, relatively simple number using the Diffie-Hellman struct. Those parameters are secured by signature, but whatever cipher suit we are trying to negotiate is not secured by the signature. It's being checked at the end of the handshake and the finish. And thus, this can actually be used, manipulated to organize an attack. And here we show one of the attack options, and that's a man-in-the-middle attack. The client is sending a list of cyber suits. This is being intercepted, and then only sends a cyber suit that requires 512-bit variant of Diffie-Hellman, and it cannot be differentiated from the reliable one through the end of the handshake. Then the attacking party needs to work a little bit, calculate the cyber finish, and send it to the client. Well, what's next? Why does that work? Because people are lazy to be changing default parameters, and it's relatively easy to, or simple to, add some timeout for the connection to be established, not immediately. Thus, what is being demonstrated in the work, the topic, we are talking about some minutes. Obviously, at the effort of the Handshake browser, you probably noticed that if something is not, if there are things that are not interactive, most likely you won't even notice. And if you get more resources, you can make it seem as if there are some, no, the channel is slow. Yeah, right, such things do happen. But if we consider this going into more seriously, it turns out that the cases in the real world, for example, 92% of the Apache installations used two primes, primary numbers, some numbers, and after your preliminary calculations for them, you can actually decipher all connections with those sites. The researchers came to concluded that 512 bits is too short, obviously too short, and there are some conclusions based on the Snowden's documents that 1024 bits is also not enough for providing security in this area. Now, talking about statistics, who is under threat? This time it's not just DLS under threat, but many other protocols that are using the Diffie-Hellman scheme. Here you see some data based on the fact that 1024-bit parameters are not good enough. Thus, SSH is 25%, that IPsec is 66%, HTTP is 7% of the popular sites. In the Alexa list, allow you to make selection of the export IP cyber suits. Thus, they are also vulnerable. Well, emails with various protocols be somewhere between 8 to 15%. Authors were not very happy with postfix, so our export cyber suits are set by default, as well as all protocols with DH scheme is there. Now, how can you avoid being attacked? The best recommended approach is to be altering or changing algebraic backing instead of using Diffie-Hellman, classic Diffie-Hellman, use on the algorithm using a scheme on the elliptic curves, somewhat of a different mathematics, attacks for which are not yet known. And next on the clients, once they are getting too short of a Diffie-Hellman parameters, they should cut connection. They should. That's in the ideal world. In the real world, if you're talking about the clients wrote on the old Java versions which do not believe that there are any parameters longer than 768 bits, is obviously a challenge. We don't know what can be done with that. If you're not using classical Diffie-Hellman, if it seems impossible to give up the classical Diffie-Hellman parameters, then you should be using long parameters. Secondly, they should be generated independently for every installation. Well, that that is what I wanted to communicate. At the end, I can probably only add the following. I have quoted in global statistics. In the framework of our domain statistics, we have run measurements on the Russian data. And about Russian RUNET, they are talking about 100,000 unique domain numbers there that are there are a total number of about 1 million domains of Rus DNS, about some 12,000, some over 10% are supporting export cipher suits. Thus, they are vulnerable, and the share of domains 110,000, also about 10% of the next level. Talking about the statistics for the speed, obvious velocity speed, we will be publishing it on our statistics website. And we would strongly recommend everyone to check their settings and correct those to make sure that an attack, which so far is somewhere in the middle between theoretical attack as well as the practical one, would the possibility would be excluded altogether. Thank you very much for your attention. Colleagues, anyone who has questions to Dmitry or maybe comments? Well, since you are studying the database of your own clients, the question I'd like to ask, are you thinking about organizing respective mailing to domain administrators that things are not so good with your domains? It's meaningless to be mailing to the domain administrators, or at least to those who have at least technical contact in their account. Well, of course, TCI Internet Technical Center has certain contact details, but obviously working with hosters is probably more beneficial in this sense. And even more, it practically would cover at least about 3/4 of the highly visited spectrum. I don't know about the plan to organize a direct mailing to the address, but a good idea. We would discuss that. Thank you very much. Any more questions, dear audience?
I'm technical director of the company and would be very happy to get any information about the vulnerable sites of our clients, and we will be very happy to work with it. Thank you. And if you do it through IP, so not just two people sitting, would be just great. Well, actually, there is a site, SSLabs.com, which I like very much, which gives the general picture of tunings of the DLS and the quality of it. And I would recommend it to check your configurations. And there is a special site about this attack. And you can select some typical configuration, your own site, and you just insert the data, check it, correct whatever you find. So if you are going to continue your discoveries and everything and so on, would you like to maybe think about some security exchange site, something like which exists now, in which just to exchange such kind of information? Well, look, the information about attacks, about the information about the vulnerability. No, we're not talking about vulnerability as themselves, about the sites on which this vulnerability was identified. Well, we have to think how it works, how it should work. We can discuss it, yes. It's quite different, interesting measure, but you have to think about how to organize it. I mean, it's just so. Colleagues, any other